This movie is going to introduce you to the use of the radio button in Director and a review of how to create a custom cursor. So let's begin by building our cast. Let's start by importing a font of our choice. Insert, Media Element, Font. I'm going to choose a font. That looks good. My font is now in the cast. We're going to create a quiz, but we're only going to do it in one scene, and we'll use radio buttons for the answers to that quiz questions. So let's create our text by going to the text window. And you can create any topic. I'm going to say, do you know your, how about math? Let's highlight our font and use our imported text. Remember that the imported text is the one with the asterisk. I'll keep it that size. Let's generate the questions. What is 5 plus 111? Good question. You can create any question you want related to the topic you selected. Let's do a second question. Those are good questions at this point. I'm done with my text. I'm also going to create a custom cursor later on. So let's go in and put in a cursor design. I want you to remember that we have Corel Web Graphics in our Share folder. So I'm going to go to Import, and I'm going to navigate to the Share folder. And inside the Share folder, I'm going to navigate to our Class folder, 127 Katsakos, and I'm going to go into Corel Web Graphics. Remember that in Corel Web Graphics, we have bullets, and the bullets are really perfect for custom cursors. I want to go into the Fun bullets, and of course I'm going to pick the bigger of the two bullet sizes, 32 pixels. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm looking for like a pencil, and they have a crayon in here that looks like the pencil. That's the one that I want to use. So let's add that to our cast. Be sure it's a standard import. When you import this, make sure that you select bitmap image. It is not an animated GIF. So we're going to select bitmap and OK. It is an 8-bit image, so we're not going to need to convert it. Remember, all cursors have to be 8 bits or less. Hit OK. So now I'm ready to start working on my first scene. In my stage, I'm going to add my title. Let me give it a nicer color. So don't forget to choose your stage color. Go to your Movie tab under your Property Inspector. If you don't see it, click on the stage. I'm going to go with a nice pale blue. Let's change our ink to background transparent. I might want to make this text a little bit bigger, so I'm going to select it, go into my text inspector, Control T opens up your text inspector, and it opens in the bottom left corner. Got to highlight your text in order for that size to work. Let's try it. A little too big. Let's go to 60. Okay. Let's now add our questions. Leave some room so you can put answers. And I'm going to make my background transparent. I'm changing my ink. Don't forget we have an alignment tool also in the text inspector. It's right next to the text inspector on the line tab. So you can align at the left edge and then they're both equally straight. That works nice. We don't want this scene to move on, so we're going to put our hold on current frame at the end of the scene. Go over to your library. Remember, hold on current frame is in navigation. Drag and drop hold on current frame at the end of your scene. We're ready now to make our radio buttons. Radio buttons are located in your tools. These are tools that have been available to us since the beginning of Director. Therefore, in Tools, you have to change Default to Classic. Your radio button is right here. It's right next to your checkbox. Look at the bottom of your tools. Click on your radio button, and let's draw a radio button. Notice how it gives you a text element. Let's select an answer. So I'll say my answer 5111. Need to make that a little bit bigger. And that text is a little big. To edit a radio button, you double click on the radio button so you see the slashes. Go to your text inspector. Once you see the slashes, you can change your size. You got to select the text. Make it a little bit smaller. 36 is good. You can also change your foreground color and your background color. I'm going to leave it like this with white and just change my ink. Okay. Let's make another one. I'm going to put the correct answer here. Move that over. Let's make a third. Once you format your radio button, the rest become rather easy. Now, to align these three answers, I can select all three objects by clicking the shift, holding the shift key down and clicking on the objects. Go to that Align tab. I want to align now at the top edge, so I'm going to click, they're now aligned. But I want to distribute the spaces within. So in my Distribute group, let's go distribute the width, now that they are nicely aligned and spaced out. Let me hold these two items and change my ink. It's looking good. Let's now do it again for your next answer. Add more radio buttons. Let's put the correct answer first. And another answer will say, okay. I'm going to select all. Change my ink first. Shortcut. Let's align. Again, top edge and distribute width. That looks nice. So now I have two questions with a series of answers. If I play my movie, notice that I can click on the answers, but notice how it allows me to select all of them. We don't want to select all of them. What we want to do is create radio button groups. Radio button groups will limit the answers in a group. You'll only be able to choose one answer. So I'm going to stop my movie. In order to add a radio button group, I like the shortcut. I'm going to select all of the answers for the one question. I'm going to go to my library. Radio button group is found under controls. So we're going to scroll down at the bottom of controls, and you're going to notice radio button group. Drag and drop the radio button group onto the sprites. You can do this via the stage or in the score. The radio button group asks you to give it a name. Do not accept radio group 4. That means nothing to you. I'm just going to call this Q1 because it's my first question. The default status of the button we want off. Hit OK. All right, we now need to do that for each question created. So I'm going to go to the answers to my second question. Let's select them. Instead of grabbing radio button group from the library, I'm now going to grab it from my cast. Drag and drop it onto my sprites. Name it Q2. Keep the default for the status of the button off. Now when I rewind and play my movie, notice that these radio buttons are off, but I still see the radio button located for these two sprites. If I click, notice how it changes. That's what radio button group does, is allows you to select only one answer. But let's face it, do we want to have any answers selected? No. That means we have to write a frame script. Our script is going to tell this sprite to turn it off. We call this a highlight. Now, to know what this cast member is, simply select it. The reason why this radio button was selected is because inside your score, that radio button for that group, 7, 8, and 9, it was in the lowest channel. So by default, Director highlights the radio button of the group that's in the lowest sprite channel. So I need to remember 7 because it's cast member 7. If I click on 2, that's in my lowest. It's 10, 11, and 12. It's in channel 7. That's my lowest frame for this group. It's cast member 10. So I need to remember 10 and 7. All right, let's write a frame script. Frame scripts are located in the script channel. I'm going to click it on channel 1. Please make sure that when you write the frame script to turn this highlight off, that it lines up with the sprites that are the radio buttons. If you were to move this over 1 because you wanted to do a transition, then your script would have to move over 1 as well. Here I go. I'm in channel 1, frame 1 of the script channel. I want to change exit to enter because I want this to happen right away. My script says member. Do you remember that number of that member? The first one was 7. We're using dot syntax. We're putting a dot. Highlight, H-I-L-I-T-E. Notice that it turns green. They don't spell the word highlight correctly. They're using LingoScript now, so it's an abbreviation. Equals. Well, if we want it to be off, we use the word false. False. Let's do it again for our other member. Member, parenthesis, and that was 10. Dot, highlight, equals false. Let's see if it worked. Shut out your script. Rewind. Do they disappear? Yay, they disappear. So now only one response can be selected. Now, we wanted to review how to do a custom cursor. to do a custom cursor, I want to make an animated cursor. So my arrow doesn't look like an arrow, it will look like this. The first thing I want to do is I want to change this cursor to another direction. So I'm going to double click on my bitmap image. And I'm going to select my image because you notice that all of these are grayed out. That's because the image isn't selected. So I'm going to use my selection tool. It's still not selected. Remember when we did the space to time and edited the bird's wings? Click on the inside. Pop-up window appears saying, hey, you're going to edit this. We're okay with that. Hit continue. Now select it again, and ta-da! Let's flip this baby. So I'm going to flip it horizontally. I'm good. I like that. I'm going to close that out. I want to make an animated cursor. So I'm going to copy, let me just move this so it's down here. I'm going to copy my cast member, and I'm going to paste it 2 times. Now remember what we said, no 2 cast member names can be the same. So I'm going to go back and rename each of these by just putting an A, a B, and a C at the end of their names. I'm going to edit these slightly by just pouring in a different color. So I'm going to double click in my paint. I'm going to choose a color. Let's take that yellow. I'm going to pour it in. Good enough. It's just a little cursor. I'm going to arrow over to my next one. Choose my color. Let's pour it in. It's a paint program. Going to my third, I can arrow over. Let's do the green. So now I have all of my cursors selected. Don't forget that if this was not an 8-bit cursor, you would need to transform this to 8 bits. And a way to do that, let me minimize this, is to go into the bottom of your paint window. See where it says 8 bits? You can double click on 8 bits and change your color depth right here. So if it wasn't 8 bits, you could change it to 8 bits. When you hit transform, don't worry, a pop-up window appears to tell you, hey, you're changing it. Just hit OK. Let me open up my cast again. All right. So now I want to make my animated cursor using these 3 elements. I'm going to go to Insert. Just where we went to insert our fonts, to import fonts, we're going to create our cursor. So Insert Media Element Cursor. Here is our cursor property editor. It automatically goes out and finds all 8-bit cast members. So if you don't see any of your cursors here, they mean they were not 8 bits. Let's add our first. Arrow over. Let's add our second. Arrow over. Let's add our third. When I preview, ta-da, I've got my 8-bit cursor. Now that's a little small. I want mine to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to stop my preview. 32 by 32. Let's test it. Ah, nice. But remember your hotspot's not right on. See how I had to move my cursor lower? So I'm going to change my hotspot. I'm going to start with 6. I think 6 might do it. And let's hit preview. Ah, now that works nice. All right, hit OK. I got my cursor. Now we use our cursors with our rollover cursor change. So I need to get my rollover cursor change onto my interactive elements of my movie. The rollover cursor change is in my library. We're going to go to Animation, Interactive. Let's scroll down and look for that rollover cursor change. There it is. I'm going to highlight, shortcut here, all of my interactive elements, which are the answers to my questions. Let's take rollover cursor change and drag and drop at once. They're on there. Let's go to our behavior window. Do we see it? I didn't see it. Let's do that again. Let's drag it and drop it. All right, let's see. Is it there? No. Oh, it wasn't working. Let's do it this way. Ah, now I got it. So, what type of cursor do I want to use? The built-ins? No, I want to use my custom cursor. So I'm going to use a cursor member, and it happens to be cursor 21. Hit OK. There's my rollover cursor change. Now, let's see if I can do this at the other two in the group. I really want the shortcut. Ah, there it goes. It's working now. Built-in cursor? No. We're good. Let's try these three. Shortcut. Aha, it's working now. And hit OK. Rewind. Play your movie. Do I have my cursor? Look how nice. See my cursor? On all my interactive elements. So I've now created an animated cursor. I've created radio buttons with the group. But we got to give some sort of feedback to the person who is taking our quiz. So let's do it with sound. Go ahead now and let's import a couple of sound files. Stop your movie. Let's save our work. I'm going to navigate to your interactive folder. I'm going to call this radio button and save. Okay. Let's get our sounds. File, import. Remember that I have sounds saved in our share folder. So I'm going back to our class folder. I'm going down to waves. So I'm looking for waves. And I'm going to people. Now you can pick anything that would indicate a positive sound or a negative sound. I'm going to put in applause. And if you want to hear the sound, just right-click and hit play. Whoops. Play. Okay, we'll play with that. That's loud. Let's try this one. Oh, I like that. It's short. So I'm going to add that one. I'm going to also take a look at, I know I have something in here that says, but no. I'm going to take this first one. And I'm going to import them as a standard import. WAV files are short, so they can be a standard import. There they are. So now it's going to be time to use these two sounds. I want to use the sounds to indicate a positive response and a negative response. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the two correct answers for each of these questions. So I'm going to select this sprite, and I'm going to select, hold the shift key down, that sprite. We have in our library a group called media. Under media, there is sound. In the sound library, it says play sound. So it can play a sound when the sprite is selected. I'm going to drag and drop this behavior onto my correct answers. Which song do I want? I want the applause. Do not put it in sound channel 1. Why? We have sound channel 1 here and sound channel 2 here. We might want to put in other sounds here. I like to use sound channel 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. Notice, when can you play the sound? I want to play it when the mouse clicks on the sprite, but look at all of the other options that are available to you. Do I want it to loop? No. So I'm not going to put in a 0. I'm going to just leave it once. Hit OK. When I rewind and play my movie, if I select the correct answer, notice how I get positive feedback. Let's now do the same for the wrong answers. Stop your movie. Select your sprites. Play sound is now in your cast, so drag and drop it from the cast to your sprites. This time, we want Banu. Stick that in a separate channel. Why not? You've got so many there. I'm going to keep with the rest of the defaults. Now I have just created a movie that's like a quiz. What do you know? If you want to test somebody's knowledge of trivia in a particular area, this could be a fun game. What is 5 plus 111? But if I hit,
But no.
And you've just created an interactive game with radio buttons, a custom animated cursor, and sound.